Aesop's Fables. Here's the next few stories. We're almost done with this book. The Shepherd and the Sea. The grazing being poor in the hills, a shepherd moved his flock down near the shore where the sea mists kept the grass fresh and green. As he guarded his sheep, he delighted in gazing out over the tranquil sea, so smooth and calm and limitless. One day he was seized with a strong desire to sail over that peaceful expanse of blue water. So the shepherd sold his flock and received a good price because of the fatness of the sheep. With the money, he bought a cargo of dates, which he loaded on a vessel and set sail for another port. He had not gone far, however, when the sky became dark and a storm arose. The boat was driven upon the rocks and wrecked, and his cargo of dates and everything he owned was swallowed up by the sea. Indeed, it was only by good fortune that the one-time shepherd was rescued and able to get to land. Not long after this unhappy experience, the shepherd was sitting sorrowfully on the shore, looking out to the sea, which now was calm and serene once more, when one of his friends came up to him and said, "I see you are admiring the ocean. How beautiful and tranquil is the sea. Could any vista be more inviting?" "Have a care, my good fellow," replied the shepherd sourly, "of that smooth surface. It is only looking out for your dates. Trust not in him that seems a saint." The farmer and his dogs. It was the coldest winter within the memory of the oldest living inhabitant. The roads were blocked by snowdrifts so deep that people could not struggle through them. A farmer found himself completely isolated, with the drifts piled up to the eaves of his house. When his provisions ran out, he was forced to slaughter one of his own sheep for food. Still, the bitter weather continued. When all his sheep had been consumed, he was forced to eat up his goats, and at last, for there still was no break in that terrible winter, the farmer had to sacrifice his valuable plow oxen to keep his family from starving. When the dogs observed that the cattle had gone in the same way as the sheep and the goats, they said to one another, "Let us be off, no matter how deep the snow, for if our master has had no pity on the working oxen, how is it likely, then, that he will spare us?" When our neighbor's house is on fire, it is time to look to our own. There's lots of morals to that story. The bald knight. A certain knight, observing himself in the mirror one day, noted that he was growing old. His hair no longer grew as luxuriantly upon his head as it once had. Oh, this story maybe is about me. Anyways, indeed, he had become quite bald. To conceal such a noticeable imperfection, he ordered a very handsome periwig. One day, with a group of his friends, he went riding to the hounds. He was dressed in his gayest apparel, and on his naked pate, that's his head, top of his head, he wore his brand new wig. A sudden gust of wind snatched off the knight's toupee, exposing his bald noggin, much to the amusement of his companions. He himself laughed as loud as anybody, saying, "How was it to be expected that I should keep someone else's hair upon my head when my own would not stay there? Thy pride is but the prologue of thy shame." The wind and the sun. A dispute once arose between the wind and the sun over which was the stronger of the two. There seemed to be no way of settling the issue, but suddenly they saw a traveler coming down the road. "This is our chance," said the sun, "to prove who is right. Whichever of us can make that man take off his coat shall be the stronger, and just to show how sure I am, I'll let you have the first chance." So the sun hid behind a cloud, and the wind blew an icy blast. But the harder he blew, the more closely did the traveler wrap his coat around him. At last the wind had to give up in disgust. Then the sun came out from behind the traveler and began to shine down upon the traveler with all his power. The traveler felt the sun's genial warmth, and as he grew warmer and warmer, he began to loosen his coat, and finally he was forced to take it off altogether to sit down in the shade of a tree and fan himself. So the sun was right after all. Persuasion is better than force. Ooh, there's the thought that some people need to learn. Here's the Quack Frog. A frog emerging from the mud of the swamp announced to all the animal world that he could cure every manner of disease. Interested to see what all the croaking was about, the animals gathered round, and the frog, more puffed up than ever by the attention he was receiving, bellowed, "Here, come and see. You are looking upon the greatest, the greatest physician in all the world. Not even Asclepius, Jove's court doctor." He was interrupted by the loud bray from a jackass. A goat also seemed to be somewhat skeptical of the frog's boastings and said so. Then up came the fox. Up spoke the fox. "How dare you set up to heal others? Why do you not try first to cure your own limping gait?" "And your own blotched and wrinkled skin," added the hare. "And your own bulging and ugly eyes," said the sheep. At this the Quack Frog drew in his head and hopped away in the direction of the bog whence he had come, while the animals laughed him to scorn. Physician, heal thyself. That's it for Aesop's Fables for the day. More later. Bye.